Hi, and welcome back to part 3 of my course here at Sonic Academy. This is the second part of the drums, and we're going to do a little bit of EQ, add a couple of loops, and more. Let's start by adding EQ to the drums. And we're going to use Studio One's own EQ called Pro EQ. And let's start with the first closed hi-hat. We can see that there's information all the way down to 50 Hz. We definitely do not need that as it can interfere with the kick and the bass, so let's remove that. When bypassing the low cut, we can't hear any difference in sound, yet we freed up headroom, so let's do the same thing with the rest of the drums. We will copy the EQ by just click and drag into the next channel. We could see on the right hat EQ that there was a lot of low-end frequencies going on, possibly even below 20 Hz, so that was a very big cleanup. We also want to remove some of the high-end frequencies of the right hat, so that the high end of the drums doesn't get too busy. There's also some painful ringing going on. Let's add an analyzer and see what is going on. I like to use Spawn. It's a free analyzer and it's very good. Let's choose the high resolution mode so we can see more clearly. We can see a loud spike up here, so let's zoom in and find out which frequency it is. So about 6.75 kHz, so let's dial that in on the EQ. And watch your ears now because this might be a bit uncomfortable. We could clearly hear how even more painful that frequency got when we boosted it. Now we can remove it. Let's compare before and after. Let's move on to the shaker. Let's also remove some of that high end from the shaker so that it doesn't clash with the rest of the drums, and also makes the shaker appear a little bit more behind the drums so we get some depth into the drum kit. Claps. Now when we have removed the low end from the drums and some of the high end of some of the drums, we can start adding some loops. Let's set the volume of this loop to -15 first, and we can do that by dragging this square down, but I don't think it looks very good and can be a bit distracting, to be honest, so let's do it another way. We will add a native plugin called Mixtool, which is a simple yet useful plugin that has a volume knob and a few other functions. So let's set this to -15 dB. Let's add an EQ. We want to remove the low end so it doesn't interfere with the kick and the bass. We also want to remove some of the high end so it doesn't mess up the other drums. And let's blend it in by adjusting the volume. Let's add a kickstart to create some more groove. Now I want to add a second loop which focuses more on the mid-range percussive elements to make the drum kit even bigger. Let's add a mix tool so we can gain stage this. And let's add some bit crusher. Add some delay to make the loop sound even bigger. And we're gonna use analog delay, which is a native Studio One delay. Add a kickstart so the loop is more controlled. I put the EQ last because the Bit Crusher and other plugins could potentially add more lower end. Just want to lower the ride hat a little bit. Now we have a complete drum kit. Only things that are missing are the crash cymbal and a snare fill. I consider those more of an effect, and that's why we will add those later on. And that's it for the drums. I'll see you in the next part where we will go to work on the bass lines.